again. It's a redskin.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bull Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about the expectations that should be on Zach LaVine's shoulders heading into the next stage of his NBA career with a 5-year max contract deal that was given from the Chicago Bulls. Now, at the end of the day, it's a very high risk and also high reward type of situation in which if Zach LaVine can hopefully live up to that max contract type of situation, and he will automatically, I guess, show that validation with us having more wins, with us progressing over the course of many years, potentially aspiring for championships and stuff like that. That will help Zach LaVine kind of live up to that max contract. But unfortunately, not everybody does live up to those max contracts. Again, how many times have you seen NBA players get max contracts or get very close to max contracts but don't live up to that money and they end up falling away a little bit? So, risky game, high risk game, but also a high reward. We're going to be talking about what I can see from Zach LaVine and what I expect to see from Zach LaVine over the coming seasons to help ensure that he does live up for that max contract, and also what the Bulls could do around Zach LaVine to make sure he's performing at his absolute best. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about Zach LaVine and whether or not you think he can live up to that max contract type of scenario. It's a very big topic of discussion. Again, I feel like a lot of people right now at this point in time believes Zach LaVine earned that max contract. Zach LaVine deserves that type of money, deserves that max contract, and most people might even think it was the only way to really start competing from this point forward. But 3 years down the line, many people will most likely think differently. At the end of the day, that's what hindsight is all about. Hindsight is a beautiful thing. But right now, we don't have hindsight on our side. We don't have the ability to look 3 years into the future and know what the outcome's going to be for Zach LaVine, or 5 years into the future and know what the outcome will be with Zach LaVine. So we've got to make sure that we take every opportunity that we can to talk about improvements, to focus on what needs to get done from Zach LaVine's side of things. So, last season, in a very injury-prone year, I've always talked about Zach LaVine's stats, and you always got to put an asterisk next to Zach LaVine's stats last season because he played less than 50% for the majority of the season. He had a torn ligament in his thumb, sore back, obviously needed knee surgery as well. The list goes on from how bad Zach LaVine was really playing, how hurt he was playing with the Chicago Bulls team. But his season averages was 24.4 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 4.5 assists, shooting 47.6% from the field and 38.9% from the three-point line. So when you look at those numbers, there's not a lot that's really negative about Zach LaVine's numbers last season. But of course, when you know the Zach LaVine that you've come to see over the past of years before that, you can obviously see it's a relatively down year from Zach LaVine. But the fact that it is a down year and those are the numbers that he was averaging on this Chicago Bulls team, not really even as the first choice or the first option on this team as well for the majority of the time, that is definitely something to keep your eyes on, and hopefully that could be improved upon in the upcoming seasons. When it comes to Zach LaVine, though, it's not all just stats. I think stats are great. Stats really do define if a player is good or not, but there's a lot of things other than stats that you look at and you can say, Zach LaVine probably needs to work on some of these things. If you don't watch the games, you may not be able to really, I guess, identify some of these things, but I'm going to talk about as much as I can without trying to make this video ridiculously long. The first thing I want to get out of the way is that Zach LaVine needs to continue to work on winning habits. At the end of the day, it's very unfortunate that throughout the course of Zach LaVine's, I guess, seasons in the NBA, last season was his only real winning season out of every single season he's been a part of in the NBA. Whether it's on Minnesota or on the Chicago Bulls, last season was his best in terms of winning. He made the NBA playoffs for the first time. He ended up competing against the Milwaukee Bucks, who was one of the best playoff teams you probably could have asked for in terms of competition-wise. Even without Chris Middleton, they still brought a very good fight. And all things considered, he had a mixed bag in the NBA playoffs, but of course, we're hoping that it's the injuries that really played a factor in that avenue as well. But his first time experiencing the NBA playoffs, that's going to be big for Zach LaVine. And unfortunately, there's not much winning habits there when it comes to Zach LaVine because he's not been on winning teams, because he's had so many coaches over so many courses of years in the NBA. And again, some of those coaches don't have winning habits either. So a lot to really learn for Zach LaVine in this way. And I guess the most important thing to take out of that is he's still in progression of learning that. It's not like he's not learning whatsoever. He is in the middle of it. He's in the progression stages of learning what winning habits are going to be all about. And that's probably the best part about having guys like DeMar DeRozan around the team, because he's been around winning cultures for most of his NBA career, or at least most of his prime years in his NBA's career. He's developed habits, winning habits, that allows him to get to the playoffs on a regular basis and allows him, with good teams around him, good players around him, to contribute at the NBA level as well and contribute in playoff situations and be part of very important games. Zach LaVine will need to learn all of these things. And the most important thing, the NBA playoffs last season, and he's also won Olympic gold for Team USA. He played his role in that tournament. He's one of the better players, in my opinion, in that tournament as well. Not being biased, but I think Zach LaVine played a very big part in how Team USA actually won the gold medal. And that's habits. That's learning how to win. That's being around winning players, and you get to learn little bits, even from the head coach, Greg Popovich. You get to learn little bits of details that will help towards your game and will help you become a winning player and developing winning habits. So Zach LaVine, is he a born winner? I would say, obviously, being in the NBA, you're always going to be proven as a born winner. But when it comes to the NBA terms, he's not really had those winning seasons. But he's now starting to get those winning seasons with a better team around him. And he's obviously one of the bigger vocal points in terms of being a winning player, which is why he got that max contract in the first place. But he does need to continue to learn that. And at the age of 27, he's still in those years where he's kind of entering his prime years in the NBA. He's going to have to continue to learn and work on those winning habits in order to really be worthwhile with that max contract. Obviously, I think the most important thing as well is health. Now, Zach LaVine actually played 67 games last season, but of course, as I mentioned before, so many injuries, so many situations where he's playing through pain. Zach LaVine always praises himself for playing through a lot of pain, for being a warrior in that instance. And unfortunately, health has not always been on Zach LaVine's side. He's played relatively close to 60 games for the majority of recent seasons, which I think can be improved upon. 67 games this season or last season, not necessarily too bad, and there is room to improve there as well. So we'll wait and see how Zach LaVine fares in this next upcoming season, and hopefully health won't be a big topic of discussion when it comes to Zach LaVine in the future. I really hope that's going to be the case. I think leadership is something else that Zach LaVine needs to continue to work on. Now, at the end of the day, there's always been a conversation about who's the main man for the Chicago Bulls. Is it DeMar DeRozan, who's come straight in and pretty much becomes the guy to go to in the fourth quarter, missed the fourth quarter himself, back-to-back buzzer beaters and stuff like that? Or is it Zach LaVine, the guy who's averaged 27.4 points per game at one point throughout 2 seasons ago, and is also the guy that's been on this team for multiple years, has been the guy on this team for multiple years, and has taken the reins as the Chicago Bulls leader for multiple years as well? Who's the guy? I don't necessarily think you need one guy to do that, but I do feel like at most points throughout the course of the team and the season, in clutch situations, Zach LaVine deferred to DeMar DeRozan. Now, ultimately, in one season, I don't mind that happening, because at the end of the day, DeMar DeRozan has been there and done that throughout the course of his career. He knows what it takes to win important games. He knows that sometimes he trusts his own shot to fall in. And at the end of the day, clutch players at the end of the day will take the reins and try to do it all themselves and maybe make the right play here and there. That's something LeBron likes to do. He makes the right play. And maybe Zach LaVine was just trying to make sure that DeMar DeRozan takes the shots because it was the right play. I feel like in the future, I want to see both of them take, I guess, equal responsibility in clutch situations and equal responsibility in leadership. I feel like in terms of first clutch situations, Zach LaVine, at the end of the day, is getting paid a lot of money to be the best player on this team. He's getting paid more than anybody else by a fairly large amount as well. He has to show his true qualities and true talent at this level. He can't really always be that second guy in clutch situations. Again, I don't mind DeMar DeRozan taking over in the fourth quarter, especially when it's this type of game where DeMar DeRozan has been scoring all game. But sometimes it has to be Zach LaVine's turn as well. If you go straight to DeMar DeRozan every single time down the stretch, you become predictable. And that's not going to be good enough against the better teams. You're going to have to really diversify your offense towards clutch situations. That obviously involves Nikola Vucevic as well. It should not just be Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan. We've got enough offensive talent to really share the load in clutch situations. Yes, some guys are really built for that moment. And I feel like DeMar DeRozan is potentially one of those guys, especially in the regular season. But Zach LaVine needs to continue to learn how to be that guy. I guess that killer instinct that many people think he doesn't have. I think he does have it, but he obviously needs to learn how to bring it out. First things first, when it comes to clutch situations. Leadership, I feel like Zach LaVine, again, winning habits-wise and learning from experienced players, I don't believe you have to be a certain age to be a leader. I don't believe you have to be 33, 34, have 15 years experience in the NBA to be a vocal leader on a team. Yes, obviously it's good to have those types of guys around, like a Tristan Thompson per se. He's been around the league a lot of years and he's become a vocal leader. DeMar DeRozan is someone that I believe is a vocal leader. I think Zach LaVine at 27 years old needs to show leadership qualities as well. Just because he's not 15 years in, 33 years old, I guess entering out of his prime years, but still has a lot of wisdom to give, doesn't mean he's not a leader. I think Ayo Dosunmu has a great chance of being a real good leader in terms of this NBA team and in terms of the Chicago Bulls. And he's, 22 years old? He's already showing leadership traits. I think Zach LaVine needs to be the same. Sometimes, as a max contract player, being good enough is not always good enough for a max contract player. You got to be a leader as well. You got to be a vocal leader. You got to lead by example as well. You just got to show a lot of good things to really show you can be leading this team into very important situations. That's something I'd like to see Zach LaVine develop over time as well. And the last thing I would really want to talk about is consistency on the defensive end. I 100% in my soul believe that Zach LaVine has gotten better every single year on terms of the defensive end. Stats may not show that, but that's how I personally feel when I look at Zach LaVine. I've always felt Zach LaVine as a one-on-one defender can really match up with some of the best in the league, but my main focus with Zach LaVine is the off-ball, is losing concentration and stuff like that. That's the biggest issue for Zach LaVine. I think athletically, he can compete on the defensive end. It's about that consistency now. We've seen Zach LaVine play defense. I think most people that watch the NBA games know Zach LaVine can play defense. It's about the consistency of doing it. And I feel like he's gotten better every year at that. Let's just hope it becomes more of a non-issue in future years. If we're talking 4 years down the line, Zach LaVine is still losing concentration on off-ball cuts or still not really playing help defense or anything like that, I think that's a big issue for a guy that, in my opinion, has great capabilities of being a two-way player. That's not living up to your potential. That's not really showing your worth, the money that you're on. Offensively, Zach LaVine's one of the best in the league. And I guess you could go towards high IQ shots and stuff like that as well. Maybe that should be the last thing I talk about. Zach LaVine is a very gifted offensive player and he can make shots a lot of people wish that they could make in terms of their own career and in terms of basketball in general. But that doesn't necessarily mean you should always go to those shots because you can make them. I think sometimes high IQ shots, high IQ plays is going to be the key for Zach LaVine in the future. I honestly think if Zach LaVine can improve on his 4.5 assists in terms of playmaking-wise, that's going to be huge because he's still passing the ball fairly well. He does have a lot of turnover issues, so that needs to be rectified as well. But in terms of making the right plays, and sometimes it's not necessarily just shooting the shots, I think that's going to be huge for Zach LaVine also. So there are a couple of things there. Zach LaVine's not the perfect player, let's just say that. And he still has a lot to prove to a lot of people. But the stats that he has, the impact that he's made on this team from when he's been traded here, a lot of people never expected Zach LaVine to be the player that he was coming into the Chicago Bulls team. Again, a lot of people thought we lost that Jimmy Butler trade, and I'm not sure. I'm not going to be the one that says we did or we didn't, because Jimmy Butler's one hell of a player. But Zach LaVine is on this team, and we didn't expect him, in my opinion, to be a 27.4 point per game scorer. I don't think anybody really predicted that, but he's gotten to that stage. He's gotten better every single season, and now it's time to get better from here. I don't feel like criticizing a player necessarily means that I don't like the player or I don't think he's worth it. I think Zach LaVine's worth the max contract. But in 3 years' time, will I be saying that? Has he gotten better from 3 years' time compared to where I'm talking about him now? These are the things that really define a max contract player. If he gets better beyond the 27.4 points that he was able to score, and maybe get better in other ways, get better at his playmaking, decision-making, turnover rates, maybe it's efficiency-wise, defensively, these are where I think Zach LaVine needs to make the bulk of the improvements that I know he can make. And I feel like it's important to call some of these things out. And I'm sure Zach LaVine would know himself where his improvements lie, offensively and defensively. So we'll wait and see where those improvements will be made, if those improvements are made. And I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not Zach LaVine was worth that max contract. I'm looking at 3 years down the line, and I want to hear people say Zach LaVine's deserved that max contract. Zach LaVine has lived up to that max contract. I don't want to go 3 years down the line and we're all bashing Zach LaVine, saying that this was the worst decision the Bulls have made. Zach LaVine didn't deserve the max contract or anything like that. Because I know a lot of people will head towards that direction in 3 years' time. It's 3 years at the end of the day. Many people will have different opinions. Many people will think differently. But right now, many people are on board with this. So let's see if Zach LaVine can live up to that contract. And let's see if the Bulls can continue developing a franchise, a winning team around Zach LaVine and the rest of these players to go out and really compete for something important. And that's obviously an NBA championship. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with some of the things I have said in this video. A little bit of a longer one today, and I apologize for that. But there's a lot to talk about with Zach LaVine. I've always felt that way, and he's one of the most intriguing players in my opinion heading into next season, because he's one of our leaders. He's one of our best players, and he should be one of our leaders as well, and I think he will be one of our leaders. And you always want your best players to be performing at their best as well, because that's when you get the best out of your team also. So I hope he can contribute in one way. I hope he can contribute in all ways possible. And I hope he can take a massive leap from last season and 2 seasons ago to next season. And I think if he could do that with a winning franchise around him, with DeMar, with Vucevic, with a lot of young guys developing, taking what leaps forward, I think we've got a dangerous team here. I'm not saying we've got a championship-ready team or anything like that, but I definitely think we're not a team that should be ignored throughout the Eastern Conference. So stay on the lookout for that also. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care.